unmuted though. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee meeting of November the 19th here at, well, I'm at Town Hall. The rest of our committee are visiting us through Zoom video. Thank you for being present. We send out regrets to Anne Braybank, who wasn't able to attend tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And before we go to the second item on the agenda, I do want to say that there's a little bit of confusion out there, so I want to clear it up. As the chair of the committee, we have several councillors visiting us tonight, and we welcome them. But if they have any questions, we ask, or I ask, that you refrain from your questions until we address this at the committee of the whole. So it'll just be our advisory committee members that will be speaking to any items on the agenda, and we will be following the agenda. And if anybody has anything that they thought they should add to the agenda, we would ask that you will need 2/3 majority vote to add anything, but we prefer that you had given it to staff in plenty of time to put it on the agenda. So we want to try and stick to the agenda tonight and not deviate from it if at all possible. Thank you. First item up, of course, is the disclosure of any pecuniary interest. And I ask if there is any, and seeing none, we will move to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda. We need a first and a seconder. Who would like, thank you, Kate. And Dorothy. Councillor Bothwell, sorry.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question about that item?
About approving the agenda?
Yes.
Sure.
That's a new agenda item that I'm seeing for the first time. And maybe the clerk can just explain. Maybe it's something to do with committee of the whole now. It's a new agenda item, so I'd just like to understand the purpose of it, or it's new, so.
Are you saying that there's an item on the agenda that wasn't there before?
No, the fact that there's a bullet saying approval of the agenda has never been on our agendas before.
Way we do it.
I thought Councillor Cadwell was supposed to be on mute.
Yeah, can we mute?
The question is for the clerk?
Yes, go ahead, clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So we've passed a new procedural bylaw, and the procedural bylaw dictates that the approval of the agenda is through an adoption of a resolution. You may either change the order of the agenda, or you could defer or delete during this point, or you can add any new business, which would require 2/3. So you are approving tonight that this will be the order of the agenda.
Okay, so
as it is published.
So one other question that dovetails off of what Ms. Kim has just provided. We formerly used to have a standing item on our agenda that was called new business. I see that that's no longer there.
Yes.
Does that mean that as a result of these changes, that item will no longer be on the agenda? And that if it's business, that it would have to be brought at this time in the meeting and be 2/3 voted and accepted before any new business was in fact discussed? Is that the correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the practice is for either to bring a notice of motion to be discussed at the next meeting, or we can bring a new business, and it would require 2/3 of the members present.
Okay, so we will no longer have henceforward an item on our agenda that's just called new business. That's correct? Am I understanding?
Right, because any kind of business should be published on our agenda to provide that transparency to the public, right? So to ensure that, we usually do it through a notice of motion and discuss at the next meeting, or if you want to, you can do the 2/3.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications.
Thank you.
Before I ask for the vote, could we mute Councillor Cadwell? Could we mute him? With first and second, all in favor of approving the agenda?
Can we just speak to?
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Antonetta.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we have a delegation from Leah Wallace this evening, and what we would like to suggest is that we bring up the report 7A 95 Climb Mountain Road report to be discussed right after the delegation. That way, if the committee has any questions of the delegate, they don't have to stay to the end of the meeting. I hope the committee finds that agreeable.
Sure. That's item 7A. Keep getting, well, we'll get used to this Zoom video. Yeah. Okay. So 7A on the agenda, we'd like to move in between 4A and 5. Is everybody okay with that on the committee? So that we can have immediate discussion of the report after the delegation has spoken. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Oh, we're going to have another motion. Okay. So added to that first and second to approve the agenda, whereas item 7A is moved to immediately after the delegation. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. So item 4 is our delegation. Lee.
Have we approved the agenda?
We just approved it.
I thought we just approved moving up item 7A on the agenda.
No, it was added to the approval. The motion was to approve the agenda, and that was an add-on to the approval of the agenda.
Okay, then
Okay, Ole,
I apologize for all of
No.
the excitement. That's a new agenda procedural thing.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Can I ask one more question in that case?
Sure. Yeah.
Since we have the fortunate luck of having Miss Leah Wallace on the call right now, and she did the HIA not only for Klein Mountain Road, but also for the 240, 248, I'm wondering if she would be agreeable to answer a question on 240 to 248 tonight as well. And if so, if we could move it right after the 95. So I guess the question is to her first.
Yeah, you have to unmute, Lee. Can you unmute? Can you hear me, Lee?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, that's a little tricky because of the fact that I didn't know until I got the agenda that it was going to be on the agenda. So I have no directions from the owner or the owner's agent with respect to answering any questions. And I really haven't looked at that for a long time. So I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, but.
That's fair. I mean, we all had short notice on the agenda. Maybe if we have a question, we can have it.
And I simply wasn't told by the agent for the owner that it was even going to be on. It was a bit surprising to me, actually. So
that's fair. Maybe we can just have any questions go to you and you can answer at a time when you have the information handy. And
yes, and I would feel more comfortable that way.
That's fine. Thank you.
I don't want to walk into some great big hole.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We cleared that up. So we have Lee Wallace here tonight to speak to us about 95 Klein Mountain Road, the heritage permit. Thank you. Lee, you go ahead.
Well, I'm going to be relatively brief because I think the report is quite thorough. And as I understand it, you've all had a chance to look at my heritage impact assessment previously. My name is again Leah Wallace, and I reside at 15 Brock Street in the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and I am a heritage planner. The owners applied for, they are in the Niagara Escarpment planning area, of course. They applied for and received a Niagara Escarpment permit for doing the alterations to this property. And they're in the midst of fulfilling those requirements. One of which is because it's a designated property, of course, that a heritage impact assessment was required. And also any alterations to a designated property require the consent of council. And so I was asked to do the heritage permit piece. I'm not the agent though. So when I was there, it's an absolutely amazing property, but through looking at the property and looking at the designation bylaw, I realized that the impact on that, on the property of taking down what is essentially not a really great addition, it's not very attractive and not in very good state, that it really wouldn't impact the significant attributes that were delineated in the designation bylaw. So the owner has gone through a process with the designer to create an addition which I think is more appropriate, and would like to demolish that existing addition and put up the new one. I provided the specifications I was given. He's also going to do a 3-car garage, which is not attached to the building but separate from it. Also produced an arborist report, and while I'm not an arborist, so I'm not going to get into tree species, but I understand some trees will have to come down, but certainly most would remain. And when I looked at the arborist report, certainly most of those were black walnuts, which are really not difficult to grow in Niagara. And so I think that this is appropriate. The 3-car garage is appropriate. At least it's not attached to the house. That's a good thing. And also the fabric of the building, even inside where that addition is being taken down and the new one is being put up, the entrance through the stone wall of the main house is already there, so they wouldn't have to cut into the house itself, the stone house, and further sort of impact that wall there. So I think that's appropriate. I also like that they listened to me about the views and vistas, and so the fencing that they want to put up is not board-on-board fencing, which would obscure views from and to the building. So that I think is a positive thing. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. It's fairly straightforward, and I hope we've given you enough information to approve this.
Thank you, Lee, for your presentation. Members of the committee, do we know how to use the hand signal on your Zoom video? I know Councillor Bothwell knows how to do that, but if you want to ask a question, you just raise the hand and then I see it and I can, no.
The public can see this one too. I guess I'll take the
Go
floor
ahead,
since.
you go ahead, you've put your hand up, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question for Miss Leah or if it's a question to the arborist or to staff if they already know. There's a number of trees that need to be taken down for the 3-car garage. Some are bigger, some are smaller. You know, they're obviously keeping the majority of the trees, which is a good thing. And we're often told that it's not just keeping the trees that matters, it's also replenishment and replacement and all that kind of stuff. So long-winded, my question is, do we know, anyone at the table, staff or Miss Leah or otherwise, whether or not there are any plans in place to do additional landscaping to kind of bring back some of what will be lost for the garage and et cetera?
I don't know precisely, but this application is also subject to site plan approval. So I think that would be an appropriate time to discuss whether there should be additional trees planted for those that were taken down. And it's not my understanding that that has been discussed at all, but maybe somebody else can answer that question.
Yeah, I believe
during the site
Antonetta.
plan process.
Yeah, Thank you. Antonetta would like to
Sure.
speak on that. Go ahead, Antonetta.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can make that it's a requirement of the site plan that additional trees be planted. We can even talk about the caliper of trees perhaps in our requirement through the site plan. And should this committee wish, they can also make it a recommendation from the Heritage Committee as well, and we can take that forward. So there's two options really.
I mean, I don't know how the other committee members feel, Chair Dunstall, but it would be something I would be in favor of to see some of those trees come back. So depending on the will of the rest of committee members, it would be certainly something I would support.
Yeah, Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. I would support Ms. Juricik's motion there. If she wants to put one forward, just so we can have it on the record that the committee recommends that as part of the site plan approval process, that staff include a provision for, I don't know what wording you want to say, Olia.
I don't think I have the expertise to comment on, you know, which tree species and size and all that sort of thing, but I would like to put a recommendation forward if that's possible from the committee that's definitely something that be I don't know if it should be required or what the appropriate language to use is to have it actually take effect as part of the site plan process.
Staff?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Antonetta.
So I think if the committee just made a recommendation stating that as part of the site plan process, staff ask that additional tree plantings be included as part of the conditions of site plan approval, we can easily do that.
Can I get some help from Ms. Kim in writing the recommendation on that?
Does it just need to go in the minutes, Chair or Bianca, or does it need to go as a formal like motion?
We're okay to do it in the minutes. I think it's really a preference of the committee. We can do it in the minutes and then take those forward into the site plan process. If the committee prefers a recommendation, we're happy with either, and we'll make sure that it gets translated into the site plan process. And then council will also have an opportunity to check that when the site plan comes forward to them.
I'm going to suggest we do it as a motion with Olia bringing it forward, and I'll second it. And then it's documented as a motion in the minute.
Sure. We'll draft something right now.
Okay, thank you.
Another option for consideration of the committee is that we can add it to the approval of the heritage permit. So the heritage permit is conditional. The approval of the heritage permit is conditional on the fact that the owner or the applicant agrees to plant additional trees as part of their application. So heritage permit, site plan, do you have a preference that way?
Does it make a difference, Antonetta?
It doesn't. From our perspective, we won't issue the heritage permit unless we get owner concurrence there. We can make it conditional, or it can be in site plan. But I like to keep it nice and tidy with heritage. That's way it's very clear that it's a recommendation from heritage. And also, I think adding that vegetation speaks to restoring, you know, some of the landscape attributes of the property that will be impacted.
So I guess it probably makes sense then to put it in as the heritage permit, considering we have more discretion over the heritage aspect rather than directing staff on the site plan, or how do you feel?
Yeah, correct. I think it would be nice to do it that way.
Chair Dunstall, then just
Yes.
a question through you to Antonetta. I was also going to request, and I mean, you guys would have already seen this in my previous request on 242 Main Street East with the porch demolition. I think there's something important, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to document photographic evidence of the exposed east-facing stone wall at that moment in time when the existing porch that isn't historically relevant is down before the new addition is built, because it's a rare opportunity and it's not a big ask, and it's, you know, not costly, doesn't take a lot, and it just adds to the documentation, because I really feel that in the past, when some of these designation reports were done and the items listed for designation, I mean, in this case of 95 Pine Mountain Road, it's only the front of the house that's facing the lake that's listed as a condition relevant to designation. And I mean, I'm not the expert, but I really think that it's more than just one wall that's relevant. If that one wall is relevant, probably all four of them are. So if that would help in a future effort or endeavor to beef up that designation report and amend it to include things that might have been missed in an era when this was less closely scrutinized, then this would add to that documentation and help to support that. So I don't know if that should then also be added as a condition of the heritage permit. I don't think it's a big ask. I don't think they the homeowner would be opposed.
Yeah, and we've done that before. We could certainly do it again. And if they wanted to, we could actually go out and make sure that we had pictures that we would be happy with, at a resolution we would be happy with, or we can say photographs submitted to the satisfaction of the planning department. So we can build that into the resolution. It's photographs of.
That would be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So we're just preparing a resolution for that. So I'll read the resolution and then we'll need somebody to move it and second it, that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, well, sorry, it's a Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee. So I'll fix that. Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommends that the heritage permit be approved conditional on the applicant agreeing to add additional vegetation to the property and that photographs be submitted to the satisfaction of the planning staff of the wall, oh, did I go back?
Yeah, the wall piece is supposed to be after photograph.
Okay, sorry, yes, okay, so that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommends that the heritage permit be approved conditional on the applicant agreeing to add additional vegetation to the property and that photographs be submitted. Oh, there I go. Photographs of the wall once the demo takes place be submitted to the satisfaction of the planning staff. So I need a mover and a seconder for that.
Just a friendly amendment there. I just wanted to maybe ask for the benefit of the homeowner so that they're really clear where we're coming from on this. Additional vegetation language, just have something added to it to the effect of it as a means to replace what will have to be
Removed.
for the sake of the building that they're planning to do. And for the wall, I think we need to be explicit there, the east facing wall.
I got to look for the arrows. But here we go. Okay. This is the resolution that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommends that the heritage permit be approved conditional on the applicant agreeing to add additional vegetation to compensate for the vegetation lost to accommodate the addition to the property, and that the photographs of the east facing wall, once the demo takes place, be submitted to the satisfaction of the planning staff. How's that sound, Olia? Hey, can you move it?
I think it's nearly there. The only room for confusion I'm finding is the use of the word addition when that could be construed as the addition they're building to the home, when really most of the trees that are going are to accommodate the garage. So maybe just instead of using the word addition, using language like the new development or whatever, that would all encompass any trees that are going down because of the new addition or the garage.
Can I just say to accommodate the garage? Instead
Well,
of,
I
That's
don't,
the
I can't say off the
vegetation
top of my head right now whether it's just trees coming down for the garage. There might have been a couple near for the addition to the house. I can't say that off the top of my head.
William, I'm going to add to that.
Uh,
Sorry, Chair Dunstall.
yes,
When you talk about what trees are coming down, Olia, there's also a loss of trees with respect to the driveways that they're putting in.
Right, see, and I can't remember that all off the top of my head. So I would rather be more, cover more breadth in that language.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. And
Yes.
what if we say through the proposed works? That's that way it is all.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. I couldn't think of that myself.
it's okay. We'll fix it.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to have to go to the regional meeting now, so
Thank you,
my time
Mayor.
was short,
Yes,
but
yes.
we'll see you later, Chair Dunstall. And
Thank you.
Goodbye to everyone on the committee.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
an important meeting tonight because we're looking to get the hospital money from the region on the books, so it's
Great.
exciting.
Well, work hard for us.
Right.
Thank you.
Go-
Thank
We'll
you.
see you
and get
later.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's hope I can read this correctly. Here we go. That the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommends that the heritage permit be approved conditional on the applicant agreeing to add additional vegetation to compensate for the vegetation lost through the proposed works to the property, and that photos of the east-facing wall once the demo takes place be submitted to the satisfaction of the planning staff. I see a big smile from, and hands up. Does that mean you're going to move it, Olia?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, Olia. A lot of hard work there. Wow. A seconder. Oh, Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Miss Kim.
All in favor? Yeah, it's passed. It's carried. And this is the, yes, because we still have Lee here. Don't want to forget Lee, you're up in the corner there in my. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the delegation of Lee Wallace. Moved by Olia again, second by Kate, thank you. And all in favor? It's passed, carried. Thank you, Lee, for, are you in, okay. Which one? Oh, yes, the report. Sorry, I forgot about, yes, so we moved it up to between 4A and 5. So the report is, are we going to hear from Bianca? Are you going to speak on that report? Okay, thank you, Bianca.
You're the chair. This is a report for the 95 Klein Mountain Road application. This is for the heritage permit. And inside the report, I just included the resolution from the March meeting of last year. And basically saying the committee supported all of the conservation methods within the HIA. And just a summary of the proposed works, which is unchanged from the original, the Niagara Escarpment Commission development permit.
Any questions from committee, or Lee, did you need to add anything to that?
No, I have no further things to add.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Bothwell, sorry, go ahead. Yes, your hand is up.
That's an old hand. Sorry. Let me
Oh, it's an old hand, sorry.
take the old hand down.
Okay. I'm
Oops.
getting used to watching for hands on the screen and not hands in the
Thank you.
margin. Thank you. Okay, so the resolution reads, resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee comments from the Niagara Escarpment Commission development permit for 95 Klein Mountain Road from the March 5th, 2019 Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee meeting be submitted to council, and that report HR 20-04 regarding the heritage permit application at 95 Klein Mountain Road be received, and that the application be recommended for approval. So I need a mover and a seconder.
Sorry, I have a question.
Oh,
you
go ahead. Well,
move it first and then have discussion?
yeah, let's move it. So will you move it, Councillor Bothwell? And a seconder. Yeah, okay, thank you, Olia.
And it's just a procedural thing, Chair. Because we passed or we moved that resolution earlier about the amendments to the heritage permit request, should they be incorporated in this motion as well? Because it doesn't state anything about that earlier motion that we recommended.
We're having a discussion, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we had inquired about with the clerk earlier. They're saying because it's included in an earlier motion that it will be covered. It's fine that way. Is that correct? Sorry? Or does the committee prefer to clarify further? Instead of two separate motions?
I'm just concerned that, and maybe Chair Dunstall needs to read the motion again, but I think by approving this, I don't think they can be separated. I think they have to be somehow connected.
If the committee's agreeable, what I think we'll do is we'll say recommended for approval, including the additional requirements requested by the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee.
Including or subject to
Yeah.
Yeah,
factory,
so I like
whatever.
that language, subject to the additional
Recommendation.
recommendations made by GIAC, okay? Made by GIAC. Is it Grimsby? Grimsby? No. Okay.
Good, I'm back on. So this is moved by Councillor Bothwell and seconded by Olia that the resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee comments from the Niagara Escarpment Commission development permit for 95 Klein Mountain Road from the March 5th, 2019 Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee meeting be submitted to council, and that report HR 20-04 regarding the heritage permit application at 95 Klein Mountain Road be received, and that the application be recommended for approval, subject to the additional recommendations made by the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee. All in favor?
Do those
So-
reference, like the actual whatever GR blah blah whatever number? Or once it has a number?
They won't have a number? We don't have a number right now, but once it has a number, we can do that.
Okay, so
Okay,
we'll vote on something with a blank in it at the end, and then that'll just get inserted.
yes. Okay, all in favor? It's carried. Now, may I dismiss Lee Wallace now from our meeting? I think she can. Thank you, Lee, for all your help.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. You're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to.
I will stay, but I will be quiet because there are some other things that I might be interested in hearing about.
Oh, okay. All right. Welcome.
But I will turn off my
Sure.
sound and I will.
All right. Thank you. So we'll move to item number 5 on the agenda. That's updates. And we're going to start off with item 5A, Grimsby Beach study. We're going to get a verbal update. I think Bianca, if you could take the floor and give us an update on the Grimsby Beach study.
Sure. So through you, the chair, I have a few updates for you guys. So we have completed our second walking tour of the area this past Saturday. We got a lot of great feedback and a lot of support from the community. Staff is currently finalizing our story map. This is something we're excited to launch soon. And it'll be an opportunity for people to provide us with comments, some feedback, and there's an interactive map where they can put comments in certain areas and say things they like, things they don't like, and they'll have an opportunity to upload photos to the story map. And then we also have the survey coming forward. We're just finalizing the questions with the technical committee as well as the stakeholders committee. We have a meeting coming up actually next Thursday, and we'll be finalizing the survey questions.
Sorry, Bianca, I'm getting a lot of background noise from, I think, others in your room. We're hearing them on the live stream.
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I can just reiterate the last part again. So the survey questions are being finalized. They have been reviewed by the technical committee, and next Thursday we'll be having our meeting with our stakeholders committee, and then the questions will be put within a survey, and we'll be launching that and making people aware that that's coming out. So that and the story map are to come, and yeah, the study is well underway. A lot of technical studies being completed. So that's the updates for that one. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Bianca?
Oh, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Bianca, can you just clarify a little bit what you mean by story map? Like what exactly does that entail?
So through you, the chair. Yeah, so a story map is, or actually our GIS is helping us put it together. It's kind of going to be an extension of the website. It'll be like a portal all about the beach. And that's where we'll be able to have some interactive maps where people can actually put comments in and upload photographs. We don't really have that opportunity on the website to upload like photos and stuff. So this would be an opportunity for them to have a space to talk about it. But the link will be on the website to get to it.
No further questions? Oh, Councillor Bothwell, your hand is up. That's not an old hand.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions for Bianca. It sounds like I've heard some really positive feedback about the walking tours from the people who participated. I think it's great. I'm excited to see the GIS being used for the story mapping. I think it's a great tool to engage the community. I just have a question about the survey. What's the timing? Like how long would it be out for? And do you know if you know yet? And what methods of communicating it will be used to get the reach that you want? And the second, and the second question is the technical studies that you said are being undergoing right now. Can you give us any type of an idea of what types of studies there and where they might be on those steps? Thank you.
So through you, the chair, the technical studies that are underway, currently, I know they're working with the shoreline. We had a meeting on that today. The parking reports are coming through. I know there's a list of them, but off the top of my head, I'm just trying to remember them all. I know that within the RFP, there was quite a few of them. Those are some of the ones that were discussed most recently, but there's several different technical reports that are being done. So, and then for the survey questions, Antonetta just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Thank you, Bianca.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the survey timing, as Bianca indicated, first, what we'd like to do is we have the draft survey questions, and it's really important to us to go back to the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and get their feedback on, are we asking the right questions? Are we asking them in a way that is comprehension level will work with the public and that will get meaningful feedback? So that's going to happen next Thursday. After that happens, we'll finalize it. And we actually asked everyone who attended on the walking tours, what would be the best way to continue to communicate this with you? And people asked for things to be posted both on the website, but they also appreciated the mail out option. So we will be doing a combination of mail outs, website updates with the survey, as well as promoting it through our Facebook page. In terms of how long it's out, we'll still talk to our consultants about how long. We don't want it to become too stale. So I think we'll do a bit of a media push and then get it a social media push, then see what our response rate is and reevaluate if we need to do it longer. But certainly if after we close the survey, just like when we close the walking tours, if community members indicate that they would have liked to answer but missed the opportunity or got too busy or didn't see it for whatever reason, we're very happy to go back to the committee, to any community members who want to provide us feedback on that piece. We never want to close opportunities for engagement.
Great. Can I also recommend that you use the newspaper as well, the local News Now, so we can get that in a media format that people receive that as well?
Okay. I will have to do some research on that. I want to make sure that we're going to be doing this several times throughout the process. If the costs will add up, I'm not sure. Let me do some research and bring that back to you.
Yeah, even if it's just like Lincoln does that very often, and we find, I think we need to do more of our outreach with like public, even if it's just a short little, like a identifiable logo of the town and, public notices, and just, it doesn't need to be the whole thing, but just click on the link and go here and find out more about how you can participate. It's not just to use that method as well, because some people still do rely on newspapers.
Okay, I think it's definitely another tactic. So let's look into it and see if that's something we can explore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none. So I have the recommendation. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. Resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the Grimsby Beach Land Use Planning Study verbal update. If I could get a mover. Thank you, Olia. And seconder, Kate, thank you. And all in favor of receiving it? It's carried, thank you. The next verbal update is the committee request from the last committee meeting. Bianca, if you could take the lead again.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just took some of the items we talked about at the last meeting. I just wanted to give you an update and some of the action items we've done. So the first one was the committee had asked about the designation reports being on the website. So we're in the process of digitalizing all of our old designation reports that aren't on our file system. And then we're also working to put all the more recent ones on the website. It's just the portal space is open. We've put in all of the bylaws, and within all of the bylaws, we have the statement of significance. So those are all in. So we're working towards putting all of the reports on that page. So that's just an update there. We've started the digitalization. I have the designation reports: 104 Main Street East, 130 Main Street East, 141 Main Street East, 147 Main Street East, and 224 Main Street East. These all came to the meeting last meeting, and we received all of your edits and comments, and we've incorporated into all of them. They're all ready to go, and we will be giving those to you as soon as possible. We want to bring them to the December meeting, and you've seen them, so we just want you to go over the edits, but we understand there's a lot of them. So that's those ones. And then 8 to 10 Ontario Street is also ready. So we will be submitting all of those for your review sooner than the December agenda comes out. So.
Any questions? Olia, go ahead.
Thank you, Bianca, for the update. So since those 5 have already been updated and they're ready to go, and we're going to be seeing them in the December meeting, can we request that we see those like sooner than later because we had 3 days to go through a 270-page agenda for today's meeting. And I know we've seen the reports already, but given the amount of edits, we would appreciate the time that they require to review them. So if it's possible to see those ahead of time.
Through the chair, yeah, that was what I was saying previous. So we don't want to wait for the December meeting to be published. So we're just like finishing them up today. So we're going to get them to you early next week so that you have lots of time to review them. And we're also going to send the 8 to 10 Ontario as well for your review, but we'll get you those right away.
Thank you very much.
See no further question. I have oh, sorry, Councillor Bothwell. Yeah, go ahead. You've got two hands.
And the raise the hand now, just to make so I don't, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Bianca, appreciate all your hard work on all these. I know it's a whopping bunch of them to have to get through. When I was looking at those on the website, and it's great. I really appreciate that they're working on adding the full designation reports to that. I think it's awesome. It's come along really great. I noticed when I went on the National Trust website that there's Grimsby, we have actually 40 designated properties, but there's only 35 that are listed on our town's website. And when I was looking through some of the previous heritage reports, I noticed that it looks like 2 of them are not listed. The Culp block and the Snetzinger block are designated properties, the blocks, and they're not listed at the top under the designated heritage properties. I found those 2, and then there might be a couple more because, like I said, that still doesn't add up to. I didn't go through the whole National Trust list, but so if you could have, when you're going through that process, maybe do a double check that we have captured all of the designated properties in that top section. I also noticed that, and I can bring this up under the status activity report later as well, because we'll probably need to add it, but 239 Main Street East, the Workington House, it was brought forward to the Heritage Committee in 2015, and it was approved by council to be designated in October, I think 2015. I have the dates, but I cannot find that, and the draft designation report is in the agenda for the Heritage Committee, and it was passed by the council at that time, but I cannot find that the Workington House 239 Main Street East actually went forward as a designation. It's not on the National Trust website either. Could I have you look into that one and just see maybe if it got overlooked from 2015?
Through the chair. Yes, I'll look into that. So I've noticed it's 239 Main Street East.
Yeah, it's called the Workington House, and it's actually right across near to the Bowslow, right? 245. So it's 239. It's on the same side of the street, a couple houses down.
Yeah, so it has like an addition on the front. Is that the right one?
It's on a corner lot. I can't remember now what the side street is. It's on Vandenberg Lane. It's a part of the Vandenberg development. It's on the corner of Vandenberg and Main.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but yeah, I'll look into it and see where that is. And I was going to mention this later, but something that we're working on right now is taking updated photographs of all our properties that are designated and on the register. And we want to bring updated lists of the register, because I know it's come to our attention that a few properties have actually been removed or been demolished and are no longer there. So we're working on getting an updated list for that, the designation. And then we're actually inventorying all of Grimsby to make sure we have every heritage building in the town on our inventory list. And then that way we can use that as a catalog for picking properties for the register moving forward. We would hate to like miss the street and not know where heritage properties are. So that's something that we're looking into. So.
Okay, maybe you can clarify what you mean by you're going to be putting in all the heritage properties, because don't we as a committee recommend what goes into the heritage register?
Yeah, so it's not for the register, it's for the heritage inventory. So that's just a list of all of our properties, and then we'll adopt it. So we're just working on putting that document together, and then we'll be bringing it forward to you to review.
How are you doing that? Like, how are you determining what are heritage properties?
based on age.
Okay, because is that, that's not in our work plan, is it? For this committee?
Well, yeah, some of the items like designation aren't included on the work plan. So we want to give you the tools to be able to add properties to the register.
Okay, 'cause I thought-
So,
thank you. I understand now what you're saying. So when I looked at the last meeting, I said, when we were asked, how are we going to bring new properties forward? I said, well, in the toolkit, there is a checklist of how to determine which properties should be identified. And I thought we were going to come back to committee to come up with the criteria for prioritizing and what we bring forward to put in as possible heritage properties. But I thought that was part of what we were going to do next step. But what I'm hearing you say is that staff have gone ahead and taken properties or are going to be taking properties based on age.
no, so the inventory is it's literally all the houses in town that are older. And we're just making sure we are aware of where they all are. But as for the register, we've been asking for lists of names. And I know you guys were going to work towards having a kind of game plan why you were picking the houses. So we're still going with that. I don't know if you have any suggestions. We've been waiting. But as for the inventory, we just want to be aware of where our heritage buildings are. And we're not adding anything to a list without consent from council, and advisory from the committee,
So maybe if I could just jump in and provide some help there. I think what we're doing with the cataloging is a precursor so that the Heritage Committee has a sense of all the options available to them for adding properties to the register, and we can go for them. It's also an opportunity for us to do a drive by all our properties, make sure the ones that are designated are, can you maybe mute Bianca? Are being well protected, so we can look at them from a property maintenance perspective, and also just get a sense of what heritage properties we're aware of, because sometimes there's little gems hiding in the background, and now that the leaves are fallen, it's a really great opportunity to go around and just catalog all properties. I also want to offer another note of clarification. Typically, older buildings are properties that are designated, but age is not a prerequisite for heritage designation. So should something come up that's absolutely stellar and meets criteria under the Ontario Heritage Act, we will certainly not be limited by age of the building for bringing forward, potential recommendations for inclusion on the register and or designation.
Sorry, thank you for that, Antonetta. Who's doing that work? What staff do we have available to go out and do all this now?
So through you, Mr. Chair, like we talked about last time, we are working with some volunteers and some students to see if they can help us do some of this work. I think from the property standards perspective, sometimes if any of our building inspectors have some downtime, we ask them to include heritage on their routine. So we're just looking for opportunities to get some volunteers. As I told you last time, we have some volunteers from York University who are available. We also have a student, I believe, from Willowbank, who's now helping us a few days a week. So we're looking at different options because we really want to get a handle on the heritage portfolio generally. And then, Bianca and I will step in as time permitting, and also other planners who have joined the team are still interested in heritage. So it's an exercise where there's some downtime, where there's some ability, because that is rare, but just some ability to get familiar with the town as well, but mostly students.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I have a resolution resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the verbal update pertaining to the committee requests from the last meeting. Can I get a mover? Yes. Oh, is there more? Sorry, I'm rushing things. I'm trying to get through the minutes. The agenda. Go ahead.
Through you, the chair, I have an update on 224 Main Street East. That's the demolition of the porch. So the homeowner has sent over the photographs yesterday. So we are currently reviewing them to the satisfaction of the team as was included in the resolution, and then we'll be circulating it to the committee. So that's that one there.
Yeah, we have a question from Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
We see
flagging
you.
us. Go ahead, Kate.
224 or 22?
Sorry, I apologize. Yes, correct. I'm looking at a different one here. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, it's 242 on page 271 of the agenda, the last item on that page for the status and activity report.
Yeah, sorry about that. So that's that one there. So does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. So for 224, that one there, you asked about it being on the register and confirming it was on the designation list. So it is on the designation list. And as mentioned before, we are updating the register list. We have compiled the list of properties to be considered for designation as discussed at the last meeting. That includes 493 Ridge Road West, 35 Main Street West, and 36 to 38 Ontario Street. 270 Main Street East has been updated on the website to have Avonlea as the name. And then as requested at the last meeting, there was a request for some clarity on the statutory requirements of the committee, and that will be discussed at the January meeting. And then our last one is about the curtilage on 122 Main Street East. And we just wanted to do a little bit of clarification on severance and designation bylaws. And Antonetta was going to speak to that a little bit.
Well, thank you, Bianca. I think maybe for my benefit, I understand that the committee wanted the curtilage added as an attribute to the attributes list. That's correct, right? So I think that
I don't know if that's not my recollection. My recollection was that we had discussed having somebody look into, and at the time there were staff constraints, so it was the staff were suggesting that go to a consultant. And it wasn't specific to a particular property. It was to the merits of it being added as one of the significant features on the list of criteria for designation for any designated property.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, so I think I'll just speak maybe to my experience in the past with all property that is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act applies to real property. And real property is any land and or buildings that are affiliated with that. So by default, the designation applies to everything. The attributes are the specific things that we call out that if are affected, require a heritage permit under the Ontario Heritage Act if it's designated. So when we designate something, by the very nature of it, the real property, all the land that it sits on is designated. I'll give a couple examples. In the past, I've designated entire, let's say 200-acre farms in advance of development to ensure that the heritage resource gets protected through the development process. What happens there is that a heritage impact assessment is submitted. They then draw a line around the house within what's considered an appropriate buffer, and then a severance happens and the balance of the property is removed from the designation. So you bring forward a bylaw that then amends the property that the designation applies to. So I just wanted to have more clarity around the committee's intent. We can designate already the entire parcel is designated by the very nature of designation under the Ontario Heritage Act, which applies to real property. If we were to call it out as an attribute, if the goal is to, I don't know, perhaps prevent a severance or something of that nature, I'm not sure what the goal is, but it's already included through the designation of real property. So if anybody in the committee, I think, can provide us more clarity, what's really, what are we looking for with that? Because it's already captured under the designation of real property. I think we can better answer those questions. And then should you still want to explore, another heritage professional, we can certainly do that for you. But including the curtilage would not, in this particular instance, and I'll just use this as an example, may not prevent severance in the future. it will certainly ask for a heritage impact assessment, just like the examples that I gave where, I've designated entire farmsteads with the alley of trees leading up to the property and even some barns. Sometimes including, you can certainly call them out as attributes, but they don't prevent something from happening to them. It's all subject to a heritage impact assessment, where then a heritage professional, like for example, the case tonight, Ms. Wallace will do her assessment and then determine where the attributes are, and then, an application to either develop or sever or whatever may still be considered. So if the committee could provide us more clarity, or if the information I've provided this evening helps answer some of those questions, just looking for some feedback on that.
Any further questions? Bianca, have you finished that section of your report? So I have a resolution, a resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the verbal updates pertaining to the committee requests from the last meeting. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Oh, good. Okay, Kate and Leah. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you. The next item is the heritage brochure. Bianca, are you going to lead the way on that too? Okay, go ahead, Bianca.
Sure. So
I'll
through you, the
mute.
chair. We included them on the agenda, but I can put, I have a slide here of them. I'll share. So these are the heritage brochures we've prepared. So when we do a mass inclusion on the register, or even one inclusion on the register, or designate a home, we get a lot of inquiries from the homeowners, and some of them are quite concerned and confused with the information that can be out there. So we've worked as a team to create these brochures to provide to the property owners. They play a very important role in the protection of our heritage. So we wanted to provide them with these documents to help them kind of understand what these designations mean. And there's some Q&As inside there just to kind of answer some of the misconceptions and give them some kind of guidance and some tools. And then usually when they call, we'll walk them through the whole process, answer any of their questions. But it's nice to send them away with this so they can reference it later. So that's what these ones are. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Councillor Bothwell, go ahead.
Thanks. Bianca, I know you put a lot of work into this as well. If you, on one of those front pages, I just noticed Grimsby spelled wrong on the brochure, front of the brochure. And I'm sorry, but I did go through them, and I have found a number of typos and spaces and errors. The address Livingston Avenue is 150, not 160, a few things like that. And Barnes is repeated twice, and spacing, and OMB is LPAT, and those types of things. Do you want me just to send you the 2 documents with all my write-up and comments on them?
Through the chair, yes. So they're only drafts at this point, and we're waiting for the approval and the edits, and then we want to publish them. So we'll wait until we get your comments, and then we will send them out for printing.
Okay, so I'll just forward those 2 by email to the group. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Olia, do you comments?
There we go. Through you, Mr. Chair. Bianca, to be honest with you, I haven't even had a chance to look at them, given the volume of the agenda and the amount of time we had to review it. So I do expect to look over those in the next few weeks, and I will, if I find comments as well, I will put them as well.
Through the chair. That sounds great. Yes, thank you.
No further comments? So I have a resolution to resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the draft heritage brochures and that the committee approves the brochure to sign. And it says text, but we're going to.
I think
update
I'm
the
only
text.
ready to receive at this point.
Yeah, let's say it like that. Receives. Can I change that to receives? Yeah, I like that. So resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receives the draft heritage plan and that the committee receives the brochure to sign in text, and then we can send in our notes to Bianca. A mover? Councillor Bothwell. A seconder? Thank you, Olia. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Next item on the agenda is a timeline update for the Main Street East Heritage Conservation District. And I would think, Antonetta, are you speaking on that? Or is Bianca? Bianca, okay, you've got some notes. Bianca, go ahead.
Through the chair, just a timeline update. So the resolution at the last committee of the whole meeting brought the item back to Heritage Committee staff and legal. And we will be bringing a draft report to the December Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. This draft report will be coming, and then at that time we'll be asking for the committee's comments, and we'll be incorporating them into the final report, which will go before council on December 21st.
Any questions to Bianca? Olia?
Thanks for the update, Bianca. I hope that staff is making note of the common thread I'm suggesting here, that especially since this agenda item has received a lot of public interest and a lot of attention from groups outside of this one. I think it's only fair to the committee that we receive the content of whatever that staff report is, with a little more than a day to go over it and read it. I hope staff can appreciate that it's quite onerous to expect committee members to review agendas that are 300 pages in length, especially when some of the contents include reports from consultants that are dated July and August that could easily have made their way to the committee at a sooner date. So I'm putting forward the same type of request with regards to this agenda item in particular, given the significance and attention that it has drawn from the community.
Any further comments? Seeing none. I have resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee received the verbal update on the Heritage Conservation District Main Street East timeline. Mover. Yeah, Kate. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So I understand that we published the agenda on Monday. Is that correct?
And that also there is a requirement under the procedural bylaw.
There's feedback, we can't hear.
It's okay, I muted you.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So there are requirements that the agenda must be published within, so many hours of the meeting. I understand that 72. I understand we published the agenda in advance of the 72 hours. So I think, we'll maybe have to look at what deadlines would work for this committee, and we'll adjust that. And maybe what we have to do is include less on the agenda. I'm not sure. Maybe that's something that we can talk about when we do our January sort of huddle on what our priorities are going to be going forward, or talk about the priorities that you already have and how we're doing on those. But we do send it to you sort of within all the requirements of our procedural bylaw, and sometimes in advance of that if we can. And we do our best. I know that one of the reports, I understand that you've already seen one of the significant reports in here. Is that correct, from the consultants?
Yes,
Yeah.
we just received that application. The big one that's for request for comments tonight.
Yeah,
we
so
just
the
recently
big one that
received
is
it.
for requests for comments tonight that makes up the bulk of the agenda, we just received that. And it's just request for comments. The comments don't have to come tonight. They'll come at some point in the future. So not everything that's published requires your sort of immediate approval, but we're happy to discuss what could work for this committee, what kind of timelines might be beneficial, and maybe looking at that. But just from a staff perspective, we are trying to adhere to everything under the procedural bylaw that's required of us, but very happy to look at other options, and hopefully maybe we can have a fulsome discussion about that in the January when we talk about work plan and priorities. I hope that's helpful.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, and Tanetta for that clarification. I think, yeah, I would definitely like to talk about that in a more fulsome way at a later committee meeting, but I think in advance of that, just to help us navigate in the interim, I think it would be beneficial to committee that if there are certain items on the agenda that like are pressing for discussion because development is going to be stalled if we don't make a decision on that, that it somehow be noted, because you know, I'm seeing a development application for 240, 248. I'm under the assumption, and could be incorrect, that the applicant is waiting because they want to move forward. So I don't want to be the one causing the delay, but I also want to be doing my job properly. So if there's, you know, if 240, 248 isn't such a hot button item today because the applicant is not terribly rushed, that's great. But I didn't know that when the agenda came out. So I'm assuming I need to digest all of that in 2 nights, right? So I think in the interim, until we get something set up, I think it'd be really helpful in the next agenda to say, okay, if something really is pressing and you know, the applicant or whoever needs to see it moving along, they would then we would prioritize that as we're trying to digest the agenda.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I like that suggestion. Maybe what staff can do is like for an action at the meeting, for consideration at a future meeting, and then we can identify it that way. So those are exactly the kind of things that we can talk about so that we learn how to work in the best possible way, giving you the best chance to do your job and to make your recommendations to council with an amount of time that will work for you. So happy to talk about all those things and then amend our practices going forward to ensure that you have enough time, or conversely that you know a decision isn't being, or a recommendation won't be made this evening, and then you have a bit more time to review those.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
See no further questions. I'll read the resolution again. To resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee received the verbal update on the Heritage Conservation District Main Street East timeline. And Kate, you moved it. I need a seconder. Leah, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Yeah, so we have a memorandum on our agenda under item 6, Bill 108, updates to the Ontario Heritage Act. Bianca, you're going to speak on that one too. Boy, we're making you work hard tonight. Go ahead.
Through the chair. So yeah, the Bill 108 changes came to us after our last meeting. So we prepared a report and resolution for council that it be forwarded to the province with our comments. Some of the concerns outlined, major concerns, some were clarification on additional clarification, which were encouraged, but some of our concerns came from the change of wording from should to shall, from shall to should, taking away the authority, and council's participation in the designation being taken away, were our main concerns. And we had that resolution as well as the report sent to the province. So I don't know if anyone had any questions. We included the report that was submitted to council with the staff breakdown.
Kate, go ahead, question.
Through you, Councillor Dunstall. So this letter has already been sent to the province? The councillors are...
Through the chair. Yeah, so the report and the resolution have been sent to the province before the deadline.
Okay. Okay. When I was reading through it, it was concerning to me. If we were asked to advise, and again, I'm a layperson, I was concerned. I would potentially vote against it in just my reading, only because the LPAC members are appointed by the lieutenant government, and they're lawyers and architects and planners, and I've attended a few LPAC meetings, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they are very well versed in our official plan and can look at these proposals and make a judgment that maybe they're not history experts, but they definitely do reflect our official plan. And I think their opinion is binding, whereas the Conservation Review Board is not binding, can be overruled by council. Am I correct?
Through you, the chair, we share your concerns, and we included that within the report and the resolution. We found that very concerning as well. The Conservation Review Board has much more experience with heritage properties, and with the LPAT making the final decision, it takes away any authority from council, where now they're able to make the final decision. So we do find it concerning as well, and that was included in our resolution.
Yeah, I think we have a different concern. I thought that, like, I've attended these LPAT, and they do seem like to be experts on our official plan and how it reflects our official plan. I would lean potentially more comfortable with the LPAT having a final decision personally, only because they reflect the official plan. But it's already sent and gone. And do we expect a result or a response, or is this just a generic letter to voice our opinions?
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Chair, if I could maybe provide some points of clarification that may be helpful. First is that this came to our attention after our meeting of the last Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee. Otherwise, it was indeed our intent to bring it to you for your comments and gather your opinion. We actually scrambled to get something in time, because I think the deadline was November 4th. It's noted in there, but we wanted to make the deadline. Generally, we also did consult with many area municipalities, and the difference between the Conservation Review Board and LPAT, typically the members may know the official plan and they know planning, but with my experience in front of both LPAT and the Conservation Review Board members tend to know heritage much better, and I've had limited success in front of LPAT when it comes to heritage matters. They either are unfamiliar with it, and I don't want to speak generally, but at least the members who've presided over some of the hearings I've been a part of didn't really value heritage or were as unbiased to heritage as I personally, as a professional, would have liked. So, I maybe note some benefits of having a decision be final, but at the same time, heritage is very unique to communities, and I don't think sometimes that there's that same understanding of heritage value that we would like when cases go to the LPAT. And I think a lot of municipalities around Ontario shared many of the same sentiments that we did. But certainly next time, if we have time, we want to make sure that our comments that we make as professional staff can also incorporate comments of our Heritage Advisory Committee. So we will bring those forward. To answer the second question, the comments have been submitted. We're not sure if any action at all will be taken on them. Municipalities and heritage planners were sort of called to unite to make a statement against some of the language and against some of the changes being proposed to protect our ability to preserve heritage for the long run. In particular, the difference between shall and should, and some other key changes that were concerning to heritage professionals. So I hope that just provides some background information and maybe some clarity, but certainly in the future, we'd want to get your opinion on that as a committee as well.
Councillor Bothwell, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Um, and this, I guess, goes back to Olia's question about if there's something like this that's time sensitive, is it possible that the draft be circulated to committee members just for us to comment on outside of a meeting? Because there's always a potential you could just send it out and say, we have a deadline to meet to respond to the province. Does Heritage Committee have any comments they'd like us to consider? And then we could just by email provide those. It's just a thought, if we're not scheduling a meeting, because they are far and few between these days, that it does give us that opportunity to still be involved. And we have, at the beginning of the COVID crisis, there was some communications back and forth with committee members just via email. So I think we should have, if we can take advantage of that opportunity for time sensitive things, I think that would be great. The second question I have for both yourself, Antonetta, or Bianca, is the changes that are in this bill are impacting, there's the 90-day timeline to have decisions made and designation reports to be completed. I can't remember if it was the 90 or the 120, but there's this huge time frame, and there's only a couple circumstances where you can get away with extending it. Whether the developer agrees and whether you can say that the Heritage Committee requires additional time, and then you can ask for additional length for consideration. My question is, this is all coming into place January 1st, 2021. How does it impact the current designation reports we have on the table, the ones that we're currently preparing, and how does it impact a heritage permit that might come forward after January 1st?
Yeah. Sure, I think, so notifying the owners, I think it says it's a new 90-day timeline for issuing a notice of intention to designate and the exemptions to when the timeline would apply. Currently, there's the 30 days notice, right? So this would change that, but, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Through the chair, we were wondering ourselves, if we get designations in now, will that be held, or will it have to default to the new Bill 108 changes? So this is something we're actually working with the Heritage Planners Network to try and get a conversation going and see where other people are, how they're planning for it. And we will relay any information we find. And if we have any updates from the province, we will share that with you as we move forward.
I think that's great. I think because the ones we have sitting on our plate right now, and I understand that we've got some finalization to do, but if it means that we get those through at the December 21st council in order for them to be completed and through, I think we have to aim for that. Because if there's any chance that there's 5 or 6 of them that we have gotten this far on and all the work you guys have put into it, and then to find out as of January, I think if there's any way to get those through and we make sure as tight as we can.
So through the chair, I couldn't agree more. And so we're going to send them to you right away. If you have edits you want to send, we could also take all your edits, if you even have some still at the December meeting, and we can pass the resolution to designate them once the revisions have been made. And then we can start the process of putting it in the newspaper, sending notification to the homeowner and to the trust. But we couldn't agree more. Yeah, so we're pushing to get those out, and we will have all 6 ready.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, the resolution reads resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the memorandum pertaining to the proposed regulations under the Ontario Heritage Act, Bill 108. I need a mover. Councillor Bothwell, seconder. Kate, thank you, Kate. All in favor? That's carried. The designation plaques. Bianca.
For you, the chair, I'm just going to share my screen again. I have them on a slide. So these are the designation plaques. We have 4 of them that we have prepared. So we previously adopted the design, what they're going to look like, the materials and the company we're using, as well as the price. We've talked with the plaque company. They will honor our last quote. So we have 4 on here. We are going to be using the plaque budget. We have the 2 Grimsby Remembers plaques. The stakes are out. We are just waiting for Ontario 1, and then those will be delivered. We're trying to get them in before the end of the year, but the money within this budget period is going towards those and these 4 plaques. And so these are the downtown plaques, and we want your confirmation on the text and if you have any comments.
Any comments?
And those will be delivered. We're trying to get them in before the end of the year, but the money in this budget period is those these plaques.
Having some feedback, sorry about that. Seeing no questions, I have the resolution to resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee
I've got a,
receive the, oh, are you wanting a question?
yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go.
I did the hand, and so now I'm doing the wave. Bianca, I sent out an email with a sample of the, I know it's kind of late in the game, and I just wanted to see what committee members felt about the sample that I sent out from the Waterdown ones that they use, that plaque, because I know when we were looking at the layout of our designation, the small designation plaques, that we were talking about how you were struggling to get the number of characters in to be able to properly identify a building. And I looked at theirs and I was quite impressed with that layout. And I don't know if it's got quite a bit of text on it and it looks clean and it's still covered. So I just wanted some comments from committee, whether they thought that was even an option to look at moving the bell up and then having more space to put the appropriate year of the dwelling and more detail on the dwelling as per the example. The size is not much bigger. It's only 11.8 by 8.7.
Kate, did you have your hand up? Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
I recall when we were first discussing it was, I know that I felt at the time that it would be lovely to have dates, that kind of information. But I think we talked that the template, it was cheaper to do it simple. I just don't know what cheaper means. Like, are we talking about nickels and dimes? Because I think there is value in dates and a little bit more information.
I tend to agree. If I think the memo from staff said that there was already a concern. Bianca, correct me if I'm wrong. I had to rush through the reading of this section, but I think there was already a concern with the image of the bell may or may not fit or something like that. And I saw the image, Councillor Bothwell, that you sent through, shoving up that bell and then giving room for a bit more text at the bottom. And I mean, if nothing else, I agree with Kate. I really think that the date is relevant and important.
Okay, so through you, the chair, that's definitely something we can revisit. We just want to note that with dates and names, additional text, we'll just have to double check, triple check that everything on there is perfect. And I can send over the plaque that Councillor Bothwell shared with the Burlington Signs and get an updated quote. And then I can ask her. So I know the 9x7 was picked based on the average downtown building where we were hoping to put them. So we can check and see how that would look if we went for something a little bigger. And then we'll ask them for an updated price, timing, that kind of stuff. And if they would honor our quotes from the previous, or if it'd be to new price. So.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm
Yes.
like, if because there's not a lot of, we've whittled these 4 images down to just like literally the bare minimum of text in order to accommodate all these constraints previously, right? So I'm just wondering if it's, if we can ask the company to literally just image moving the bell up and reconfiguring the same text that's already there and just adding the year, right? That would be like maybe C dot or circa and then 4 digits. I'm hoping that that wouldn't require a larger size plaque, and then hopefully the cost would be relatively comparable. I know they might charge a bit more per character or something, but trying to recognize that keeping the costs within what we've kind of already looked at. Maybe it's just a reconfiguration of the image that would accomplish all of that.
I think that's a great suggestion through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you want to do that? Well, I guess I get personal. The date I think has a lot of value. I'd like to see Old Fire Hall say 1890, because that's when it's the oldest municipal building in Grimsby. So
it's a critical piece of information. Again, I think we were working on what was approved, but we as staff also agree that it would be even beneficial from a public perspective to be able to share the date of the building, give an appreciation of the deep history here in Grimsby. And so we're happy to make those inquiries. It will delay a production of a plaque until we can get back to you with all the information. It looks like we have committee agreement on that, so we're happy to take that back as a team.
Can I, Antonetta, sorry, Chair, if you don't mind. I really appreciate that. And I know thank you very much. I really appreciate Antonetta and Bianca that you're willing. I know it's like reconsidering it one more time, and it has come back to us a couple times, but getting this right, because we're going to be for future now using this template moving forward. And I think it is really important that we do look at the best ones out there and get the best graphics we can moving forward. Financially, if we end up moving this and we can't actually place the order till January or whatever, do we have a way that, and we've historically, these plaques have been budgeted for the last 10 years or however many years they've been sitting waiting to be produced. So the monies have been set aside in previous budgets, but never expended, right? So now we're at a point where we're expending money. Is there an opportunity if we don't spend it by December 31st that we actually can put this in reserves so that if we've committed to so many plaques or whatever, that money, and for whatever reason, the manufacturing or publication gets delayed past a year end, that the money's tucked in reserves to pay for an old year bill?
Sure. Through you, Councillor Bothwell, that's a concern for us as well. So we're going to make sure with finance what the situation is, if the money will go over, or if it's lost because it's operating and it only applies to the year. So let us inquire with that. I think before we take this back, then, is there anything else that we want to consider? We want to add a date, maybe move the bell to the top, or just position it differently, or shrink it a little bit. Any other things? Again, like you said, Councillor Bothwell, we want to get this right. So I want to, maybe, are we married to the bell? Do we want that? Is there anything else any changes now that you want us to consider and inquire about?
Well, now that you mention it, I know the bell is great. It probably has some history why the bell is there. Is the bell more significant than the town crest? Is the question. And then, like, when we look at the Waterdown model for Waterdown Memorial Hall, and they've used their crest, and how, like, we can tuck Town of Grimsby above our crest, and then it just gives so much more space to put, like, they've put 1922 Waterdown Memorial Hall, 1-story brick, Edwardian classicist style, which is, I think that's the same, like, I don't know, you guys know best, like, what works, but
well, through you, Councillor Chair, that's why I brought it up, Councillor Bothwell. Does the bell really resonate with the community? And pardon me for not knowing that, but does it resonate as really symbolic of Grimsby? Because if not, I maybe would consider doing a crest or something else, or, in plaques that I've worked on in the past, you might add the architectural style. Again, the year is a basic typically. So I think before we go back, let's just have that conversation tonight, or even if you have any thoughts, you sleep on it in the next couple days, let us know what your thoughts are so we can get it right and then get a quote that is reflective of that.
I would like to see it if we're able to ask the design layout to use the crest and move it up to the top, similar to the Waterdown model, and move the bell up as well and show the two samples. I know there'll be costs for doing draft, like just the typo, but it's not like they're doing the layout, right? but I think it's worth having a look at what the other potentials could look like.
Through Councillor Bothwell, Chair, we will do that, Councillor Bothwell. Also, Bianca has done the designs in-house to save those costs. So we'll make the design amendments and then bring them forward for a quote from Burlington Sign. So we have that skill set in-house.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
So just to confirm, is it the adding of the year, looking at the town crest instead of the bell? Anything else you want us to consider when we go back?
I suppose,
Go ahead, Olia. Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute, Olia.
that might not be a bad thing. No, what I was trying to say is that I suppose if, knowing that we have the design talent in-house, and that we're able to play around with the location of the image, I suppose it's worth checking to see, once we do move that image and swap it for the crest, if that's where we end up going, just how much more room for text does that afford us? Can we do better than just the year? Because if we can, then I definitely like, one line, if it fits, of, and you guys use your technical language in terms of describing the building style, whether it's the Edwardian dwelling or the whatever it is, right? So if there's room, then I think anything where we can fit, without getting too verbose and illegible, is worth exploring.
Okay, that's good feedback through you, Mr. Chair. I think what we'll do, we'll keep an accessibility lens in mind. We still want the plaques to be legible, but I would agree. I'd love to add a year, maybe the architectural style, or if it was associated with someone very significant, if the value of the building was more related to architecture, we can lean to architecture. If it was more related to the historical associative value, then we can put that on the plaque. So why don't we bring forward some options, and then we can look at that and get those quoted as appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your feedback. That's wonderful. I guess I'll wait a little longer. I'm very patient. Oh, thank you for bringing the screen back, Bianca. Wow. We've got a lot of changes here on this resolution. So, well, you've scribbled some things out. Let me see if I can get through this. Be it resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee received the memorandum with the proposed designation plaque design, and that staff return with a new design, with new design drafts and quotes. That's it. Yeah, there's a lot of scribble there, but yeah. Everybody okay with that? Could I get a mover for that? Yeah, Kate. A seconder. Council Bothwell. All in favor? Wonderful. And that's carried. Hope you can read my scribble. So we're on to the street name change request, the memorandum. Yes, Sobey Road. We got a letter late today from Wayne Mullins about another road too. So I don't know if you saw that, but go ahead, Bianca, about Sobey Road.
Through the chair. So yes, we've had a request from the last, I guess, living heir of the name to have it changed from Sobey with an I, Sobey Road, to Sobey with a Y, but after the E. And we, in the memorandum, we put a few concerns that came to us in regards to impacts on the property owners and potential impacts for the town. And we're just looking for some suggestions from the committee and how we could move forward with this item.
Questions from committee? Are there concerns with postal addresses, things like that? Is that one of the questions? Yeah, mailing address? I've always had a dream of changing Ontario Street back to Depot, but I don't think anybody that lives on that Ontario Street would appreciate that. But Kate, Go ahead, Kate.
For you, Councillor Dunstall. I believe there's 8 houses and 1 business on that road. And I started to research if there was any other situations like this, which of course there is. And I found one, and again, apples to oranges here. But I found in 2010 a reference to Tyrrell Street in Toronto that I guess he was the first reeve of Weston, but now over time it swallowed into Toronto. And his son was a famous explorer. And so there are 2 Tyrrell streets, I believe a park, a school, or so on. And all of them are named differently. So in 2010, they started to change the name. And again, we're talking about a small road with 8 homes and 1 business, and we're talking about a road in Toronto, where I found that they said that each one of the residences would have to agree to change the address because it would impact them financially, impact their time, their driver's licenses, their birth certificate, not the birth certificates, their passports, things like that. The business that is on that street would also be impacted. So they would all have to agree. I also read the Toronto policy where the person petitioning to change it would potentially have to pay. So, I mean, it's an error on our part, I would assume. So I don't know how we would go about that, but I would think that we would potentially have to, it'd be lovely if it was correct. But I would think that they would all have to agree.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I can, Kate, excellent on you for finding that. That's what we've included in our staff memo. There are financial impacts to the residents there, their health card, driver's license, billing information, and just the nuisance of going forward and changing all that. So that's why we brought it forward with some of those considerations. In some instances, council felt it significant enough and they offered financial compensation for those nuisances. And that's why eventually this will come to council, but we wanted to bring it forward to the Heritage Committee first for some of their thoughts on how important this name change is and that sort of thing, or whether or not, we can live with it and just get your recommendation. But our staff memo does include all of the potential implications for the people who live on the road. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair. Your question about the postal codes is right. The clerk, I understand, is working with Canada Post on clarifying the location of the mailing addresses and postal codes for those businesses, because it came up with the biodigester because and I think a number of other residents on that road are identified as Beamsville, not Grimsby, and the postal code is a Beamsville postal code. So I think we have 2 things happening. We have a naming concern, that's a heritage concern, and then we also have a Canada Post issue with respect to whether they're Grimsby or Beamsville in the postal code issue, which came up, I think, with the ward boundaries. So the people are going to be impacted twice. They're going to be, if we change the name and then the postal code and whether it's Grimsby or Beamsville as well. So I think we need to watch how we time whatever we're going to do with how the clerk is working on that other position. I totally think that as Kate mentioned, that I think all we need to do an outreach to the community to let them know that this is being considered. And we've got some further historical evidence from Mr. Mullins to support it. It's interesting that the town of Lincoln has reached out to this family member to ask, because they're researching the dairy and the history of the dairy. So it's interesting that Lincoln is doing that when they're in Grimsby. So yeah, I think it's, I hear what the resident is saying and the desire to have it rectified. And I think we just need to do a bit more digging and a bit more clarification of what that means financially. If the staff can provide us with some basis as to how other situations have been handled, perhaps from a compensation perspective, or what that means to people, so that we know we're prepared for that if we end up going that route. Thank you.
Did you want to answer that? or you're happy
I
with?
think you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Olia, you had a comment?
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. So thank you, Kate, for some of that research. And I pretty much echo the sentiments of my fellow committee members. Really, I'm trying to jump ahead to see where this realistically, where the cards would fall. And given the fact that, yes, it's not exactly the same as the Toronto comparison where a lot more things were named incorrectly and there would be a lot more inconvenience. You know, we're talking about a street with 8 homes and a business. I don't want to be the pessimist, but I don't see the homeowners 100% buying into this, especially given that they would potentially have to cover the costs. And on the flip side, if the town was to offer to pay for its mistake, given how spicy some of the budget conversations by council get, I don't see that being palatable to the taxpayers as a whole either. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is if the due diligence shows that in fact the town was wrong in this naming, and that we don't get buy-in from the taxpayers as a whole or the residents of the street to rectify it, I really think that that's an unfortunate and unfair result for the family that was meant to be honored by the street name in the first place. And as a workaround, whether some kind of news blitz or feature or something could be done that would be immemorialized in the newspaper with like a write-up and a story and all of that, and acknowledging that it's spelt wrong and this is the whole story, and it just to have some shred of a tip of the hat to this family who, if the research shows, has been wronged with the wrong spelling all this time.
Did we designate the property, Olia?
Which property? Is there even one left on the street? I don't know.
The dairy that they say that they owned and on the corner, and is there a way
Is it still there?
No, I don't think it's still there. Well, Antonetta, I don't know. Like historically, I don't know if there's any existing property still that's owned that is worthy of any type of like plaque or recognition or.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, what we've done or what I've done in before my experience, we could say this was the former location of Sobeys Dairy, or spell it correctly and try and do something with that of that nature. And then maybe the town could do a Facebook post or something at a minimum should the other pieces not work. So I think there are some options. And if there is a physical building there right now, heritage or not, if the current owners were in agreement, if the town were to pick up the cost for a plaque, for example, could we not only correct the name, but also honor the original location? I think those are all options we can look into. But I don't know the site. I don't know if there's a building there. I don't know if we're going to have an agreeable owner. There's a lot of unknowns, so just options.
Our clerk would like to update on the postal code situation. Go ahead. Ms. Kim.
Not sure if this will help, but just an update. I did engage with Canada Post, and there's going to be an addressing realignment project. Due to COVID, it has been delayed to after the holidays. So once that starts picking up, they will be coordinating with the communications with the residents regarding the addressing realignments as well. So just a quick update on that piece.
Thank you.
May I ask what the motion is, Chair, that's before us for this?
Yeah. Do you have the motion? Yeah. Okay. Resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the memorandum and associated correspondence, and that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommends, and it's blank. So what do we recommend? Further investigation? More research?
Olia?
I suppose we should probably itemize what kind of things we would like to request get looked into, just to kind of narrow the scope a little bit. What does the committee feel?
So I agree. So research, we've got the information from Wayne Mullins on the history of the property.
Yes. So I think, is it like, would staff need to do anything in addition to that? Or I mean, he's representing the archive, so I'm taking that as close to accurate as we can get.
Do we want to return it to staff for an update on the cost, the impact?
How about we ask staff to investigate the cost, the potential cost that would be incurred by residents, and then the second would be any other method of potential methods of recognition, other methods of recognition, and their costs, right?
Okay.
What do you, Leah?
I think not just cost to, what did you say? Cost to the residents?
Yeah.
Because there's cost to town, right? They were talking about something about road allowances, and I mean, okay, the 4 signs, I can't imagine that would be exorbitant, but there might be other things that I'm not thinking of that were alluded to in the staff report that wouldn't necessarily be costs associated with the individuals themselves.
Mhm. So through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Instead of
Go
saying
ahead.
costs to residents, we could just say costs in general, because who knows, council may choose to pick up the cost, or the residents may, have to bear the cost should they want to proceed. So maybe we'll just do a general caveat, affiliated costs, and we'll work with our public works team on exploring those. And then we could say, and propose alternative strategies to appropriately commemorate this family and the operation of the dairy here in Grimsby, and just bring back some options.
Oh,
Yeah,
could you,
and at the end of the day,
and maybe,
go ahead, Tom.
sorry,
Well, want to
link it as well to the postal, do we want to link it to the postal code as well, or leave them totally as separate items?
Our clerk is shaking her head no, so I'm going to say we'll leave them as separate items, but we'll ensure there's coordination. So I think that can be it.
Yeah, thank you.
And we can include that in the motion, just saying, ensure that there's coordination between the postal code work so that it's covered.
Olia, did you want to add something? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
I did, the thought poof disappeared.
It poofed, eh? All right. So we're working on that resolution.
Sorry, Chair, Olia, and maybe.
Go ahead.
We're gonna, thank you, sorry, I'm forgetting we're not in a room. Advising the family, somehow we're gonna have to communicate and respond to the family as to what our next, or was that you were thinking, Olia?
I don't remember what I was thinking, to be honest with you, but I was wondering about how do we circle back and communicate to this poor lady that, that we are looking at it and that, we haven't kind of forgotten about it. Yeah, I think that would be fair.
All right, do we have the resolution? Do you want me to?
So we'll include that in the resolution, that staff communicate back with the resident? Is that okay?
Let's see how everybody feels about this. Everybody hear me? Resolve that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the memorandum and associated correspondence, and that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommend that staff be directed to bring the affiliated cost and tentative alternative options, including coordination with the addressing realignment project and the further communication with the impacted resident. It sounds pretty good. Any concerns? None? Can I get a mover? Good, Olia. And a seconder, and Councillor Bothwell. And all in favor? Excellent, that's carried. Our next item on the agenda is the request for comments on 240 to 248 Main Street East. Comments? Kate, if you,
When I started to read this, the first link on the document, the agenda, let me just find it. Al, can you get that, please? Sorry, someone's at my door. I had a little bit of a breakdown, nervous, because the way it's written, it sounds like the two houses being saved are 246 and 248, and we're losing 242. That's the first, the planning department memorandum. It says, it actually says that the retention of the existing two dwellings located at 246 and 248. And as I read later on, it seems like we're keeping 242 and another one. So I just wanted to clarify, 242 is the one we dealt with in the summertime. And it was the one with the porch that we talked about earlier today. We got an update. And I believe that building is the John Hewitt Deer Park farm property that the fellow who built the Village Inn Hotel. And so I'm hoping that it is correct that 242 is not being demolished, because it just says in this page that two dwellings will be retained, and they are 246 and 248.
can we get some clarification on that? We're looking.
I can clarify that that one is being retained. I'm just reading the memo to correct it. Sorry, I'm just reading over it quickly. Yeah, so it should be 242. 42 and 248. Yeah. I'll have to clarify which is the other one. Just give me a second here. Okay, so it looks like the notice to the agency is included in the 246. Let me just clarify the address of the registered property. Yeah, so it is 242. So I will check with the with our department about the agency. And I'm just looking now if I have the formal application. I may have to revise that. Yeah, I'll have to clarify that about the notice. I don't have the original submission with me.
You'll get back to us on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now, maybe include it as a comment. And I don't know if, I know we had discussed earlier, if comments want to come after today as well, we can have that clarification sent. I can send it tomorrow.
Good.
Clarification on
Okay.
that.
Okay, Kate, you wanted to ask more? Go ahead.
Just an interesting note, in the summertime when we first started talking about 242 and the porch demolition, I learned, I'm pretty positive through our own binder that references John Hewitt and also research in the archives of our newspaper, that this is John Hewitt's Deer Park Farm summer cottage. And many of the newspaper clippings I read talked about people being buried on that property. So it's going to be an interesting demolition. So.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. Kate, to that effect, if you read the archaeological assessments from the stage 1 and 2, they did find bones, but they identified them, I believe, as animal, but they couldn't, and it looked like they were butchered or whatever. So one of the bones. So, but what came out of that, when I read the planning justification report, was also previously posted on the town's website. I don't know if it's back up now, but there were further documents that were supported with this application, I believe, that were originally posted. And I was able to read those, and I don't know, I think they're going to be reposted once they clean up the website, whatever. But in it, it clearly said that 242 was being retained because when they did the archaeological investigation, they found 280 artifacts at the stage 2, and that it was recommended, I think, even to go to a stage 3 and a stage 4 on some parts of the property. And as a result, the applicant rescinded or changed the plan so that it would not infringe on the property of 242, because there would be a 20-meter radius even now, I believe it said, from one of the prime locations of the archaeological dig. So there's still potential for more archaeological findings on 240, which has not been disturbed. So yeah, it sounds like a significant treasure trove of archaeological items. But the planning justification clearly said that they had determined that they would remove 242 from the application process. And so they called it 240, space, and then 244 to 248 or something in the planning justification report, because 244, I think, is the next building, or the next property. So yeah, I think I just had a brief look at some of the documents and read through some of it. And I'm not sure what we're expected to at this point, but yeah, I would appreciate the opportunity to provide further comments at a later date if they're not moving immediately on doing something. And this is where Antonetta can maybe clarify what's the timing of this application and what's the timing that Heritage must respond by.
So through you, the chair, I've just confirmed 242 is being retained, and it is stated multiple times. It is evaluated in the HIA. So it is being retained, and there's little to any impacts on the actual heritage structure. And I will ensure that the notice for the agencies is updated. And as for the commenting time, we've just received the application and deemed it complete. So it's still in the early stages, and we can get a confirmed date for you for the last day for comments.
Thank you very much.
If I could go ahead and read the resolution result. I what? Go ahead, Olia. Yeah. You need to unmute, Olia. You're not unmuted.
Okay, sorry. Given that we have some time for comments, I'm gonna kind of properly digest this and then come back. But one question that I do have, since Ms. Wallace is still on the line, the question that I had immediately was, so I didn't notice Kate's comment earlier in the staff memo about the inconsistency. My read of the HIA was that out of 242, 244, and 246, only 244 was not going to be retained, and that 242 and 6 were going to be retained. So my question to Ms. Wallace would have been, because there was only like a couple paragraphs to write up on that one, how was that conclusion reached? Because in the same breath, it also mentioned that it was also part and parcel of the Boslaw property and all that sort of thing. So just, I read that to mean that the 3 properties were all part and parcel of the Boslaw property, but somehow one of the 3 was determined not to be of heritage significance. So just a little bit of clarity as to like, what's the distinction between that one versus the other 2, if I read that right, in terms of what's being kept and what's being demolished. And then I'll come back with any other comments at a later date since we have time. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace, do you want to comment on?
No, she wasn't planning to.
Yeah.
She wasn't planning to today,
okay.
right?
Oh,
She
that's
wasn't
right.
ready.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Bianca wants to. Go ahead.
Um, Yeah, so we shared that question from our department when we were reviewing the HIA. So we will email her the question and ask for some clarification on that. And if she wishes to speak at a committee meeting, we can have her as a delegate at a future meeting.
So once you get that response through you, Mr. Chair, that can be shared down to the committees.
Yeah, I'll circulate it to you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I have a resolution that says resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receives the request for comments and associated documents for the properties at 240 to 248 Main Street East. Is that, can I get a mover for that? Yeah, Kate. And the seconder is Councillor Bothwell. And all in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And our next item is status and activity sheet. There we go. Bianca, were you going to speak on that? Go ahead.
Sure. So through you, the chair, I do have the sheet here. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions or if we want to go through the highlighted yellow, the changes. So yes, we have the updates for all the designation reports that they'll be coming to the December meeting, including 8 to 10, and we will be having the property owner as a delegation at that meeting. And we have the curtilage discussion that we started today that we have action items for. So I'll update that there. Again, these ones are coming to the meeting. For the outstanding plaques, as we talked today, I'll add a new action item that we're going to look at some new designs. For the Grimsby Remembers plaques, these are just an update that we're waiting on Ontario 1. We've already cleared the waterfront one as Lake Iroquois, which will be at the Casablanca Park in the Winston neighborhood. And then the microclimate we're getting confirmation on, which will be in front of Centennial Park. Heritage Register, we're still waiting on some properties. I know we talked about potentially coming up with a criteria. In the meantime, if there's still properties that you want to add while you're working on the criteria, or if you'd like staff to come up with ways to select buildings, we can move forward with this item. And then 78 Livingston, we are still working on the designation report for it in the background. Then we're evaluating against the 906 criteria. 242 Main Street, since the uploading of the agenda, we've received the photographs, we're reviewing them, and we will circulate those to you once we've deemed them satisfactory. 8 to 10, once again, is coming to the next meeting. 36 and 38 are going to be evaluated against 906 criteria for potential designation. And then we had a request for removal for 33 Livingston, which is being reviewed, and we're still waiting on a deemed complete application with reasons for removal. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, questions. Kate, go ahead.
Through you, Councillor Dunstall. I just heard you say, I had a point to make on this, the worksheet, but you just said something about 36 and 38 that I don't see reflected there, that you're considering for designation. The reason I wanted to bring it forward, and I'm going to keep bringing it forward over and over and over again, is since last meeting, after we talked about, we had looked just to put them on the list of do not demolish without notification. And I thought about it, and I thought about the fact that Wayne Mullins had researched the house, and I think we dated the house to the two houses. One of them was 1840, but the fence, I'm pretty sure, we dated it to like 1870s. And the Richard, the fence has a metal part on the top that actually has a crest, and it says Rab John Hamilton. And we dated that company. It was only in Hamilton from 1874 to like 1882 or something like that. So this fence is pretty old. And I know that back to something Dorothy said about our designation list. I noticed that the Queen's Lawn Cemetery Gate fence, which is designated in 2005, is not on the list on the website. But it was built in 1721, I think. And it was designated in 2005. And so this fence is older, but this fence is also in an intensification area, which I mentioned last month. But the thing I realized was it's on a street, a meter and a half away from the road of a road that's going to have builders trucks going up and down as soon as the Century condos start going. My concern is, because this fence is already partially leaning against the house, that I would like to move forward to protect the fence in any way we can while those trucks are going up and down, like very, very close to it. And the fence already looks like it's in disrepair. So I would love it if we could move forward on this in any way, other than leaving it on a list and waiting for the homeowner who already said they don't want the house on the list, just to protect, because it's valuable history.
Through the chair, that was actually an update at the beginning of the meeting. I mentioned that we had compiled the list of properties to be considered for designation, and that was high on the list. The top three I had from you guys was 36 to 38 Ontario Street, 493 Ridge Road West, and 35 Main Street West. We actually have 6 to 7 we have already identified, just based on the fact that they're incredible and they should really be protected. And so we have these 3 and we have started them. So we heard you, we agree with you, and we know that it's definitely an important part of our history. So it's included. Also, we have received notification that the homeowners want to be removed. So the process has started. And they haven't provided any information as to why it should be removed, but we are preparing in the background. So I want you to know we're definitely looking into it. And if you don't mind, I know you have some great information. If you want to send it over, and we'll incorporate it into the designation report.
Now, through you, Councillor Densel, Wayne Mullins, not this past summer, but the previous summer, did extensive research on the house and on the homeowners over time and on the fence. So did he send that information to you, Dorothy? He came to my house and verbally told me about it, but I never got a copy. So would you have a copy?
Through you, the chair, we actually have a copy as well that we're using for the report. But if either of you have it, like additional, we would love to have it. Thank you.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a suggestion. Just hearing the significance and the importance of the fence, even having a designation report may not lead to an outcome that we want. So I wonder, and I don't know how we'll have to proceed with this, and it's just an idea that I'm having. I don't know that we'll be able to deliver on it, but maybe if we work with Public Works, is there anything we could do as an interim measure to prevent any salt spray and further deterioration of that fence during the winter months, which can be very harsh on heritage features so close to the road, and even just the vibrational impacts? But if there's any options that we can explore, I would be happy to see what else can be done from a physical perspective. And if the costs are minimal and we think that it's worthwhile, maybe we just do some intervention. Of course, it's on private property, so we would need the owner to concur, but I wonder if that's a thought that anybody has or might be agreeable to, because the designation alone, there's always demolition by neglect and other issues that happen, and especially a fence, they're particularly vulnerable. So maybe just open it up, if you don't mind, Chair, to what the committee's thoughts are on that.
Comments? Councillor Bothwell?
Antonetta, I don't know if the property standards bylaw, which now incorporates some of the requirements to maintain heritage properties in there, is there any way to use the property standards? But you don't want to do that. I think the first step is, like you said, to see if we can get agreement with the property owner, but I'm sensing that there's a pushback. And if that's the case, what other tools do we have? Can we use property standards?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's a great point, Councillor Bothwell. We can use property standards if it's designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, but not if it's listed. I should also clarify from a heritage perspective, maybe we can use the Property Standards Act from a general property maintenance perspective, but I might be worried about doing that as well. I don't want to get on their offside. I maybe want to offer a collaborative approach, one where we show our real genuine interest in it and our ability to take some ownership over a really important resource.
That sounds great.
That would be my preference to start.
Mhm.
Any further questions? Kate, you got your pencil up there, and Olia. Kate first, then Olia.
Just a note, I bring the fence up mainly because of the pending construction and being so close to the road. And besides the house being even older, there's a barn in the back of the yard. It is very, very rare to have a full rock barn. And there's a mystery in this. There's a real mystery that this fella had no business having this grand fence. Like, he was a worker. He was just a guy who happened to cut rock for a living. And we found out through some historical newspaper clippings that a lot of the rock was imported here. Like, it's a huge mystery of how this guy came. Like, this is what he did for a living. He built fences like this, like he cut rock. But he would have he imported rock. Where did this rock come from? How could he afford it? And how could he afford the metal top? So there's a kind of a neat history there that we can uncover. And just to, it's part of our story to get people excited about history.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, if I may, I really enjoy that. What I'd like to do as well is reach out to the Ontario Heritage Planners Network and see if anybody has seen anything like it, and just try and uncover, maybe like when we've had sort of these unique kind of mystery items in the past, we throw it out to all the heritage planners in the province and see if there's any insight that other heritage planners could offer. So maybe we could do that with this property and just see what we get back.
Olia?
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. Just a couple of cleanup points on the updated status and activity report. I believe it's page 271 of the agenda, the two second last, I don't know how to say this, the third from the bottom and the second from the bottom items. I think there are things that are done and dealt with and like don't even need to be on the sheet anymore. One of them is the Heritage Committee's terms of reference has been adopted and the bylaw has been passed. And the other one was about the Young Canada Works Grant. Like I think I mentioned it even last meeting that was something I think CAO told us that wasn't going to be pursued. So if those items are done and dealt with, I think they can just be removed from the status and activity report. And one other one, you might have touched on it in the beginning update, but I might have missed it if you had, was the question that I was bringing back last month about the correspondence I had with Mr. Basic about the criteria that staff go through when they're going through a development application and whether or not to bring that to Heritage. I don't remember if you touched on it at the beginning that I missed it. So I'm just wondering where that's at because I'm not seeing it on the status sheet here. So if you could, sorry, if you mentioned it, sorry, if you could just repeat it, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, through you, the chair. So I mentioned before that we're going to bring how did I phrase it? We're going to be bringing the role of the committee, so your statutory requirements, and we're going to bring that into January, just kind of go over everything that the committee is responsible for, and then easily outline it that way so that you know which applications you can comment on and why you're commenting on them, that kind of thing,
So
and the criteria.
I think through you, Mr. Chair, I think when we had done the subcommittee work on developing our new terms of reference, we had gotten a pretty thorough understanding as to statutory requirements, and that I was more wondering about what staff is considering when they do and don't bring something to committee. Because I had provided in that July email the example of 3 proposed developments, 2 of which came to committee and 1 that didn't. And I, as a committee member, couldn't see the difference between the 3 applications, why the 2 did come to committee and the 1 that didn't. So I think we were pretty clear on statutory requirements of the committee. I was more trying to understand the criteria that staff evaluate before bringing something or not bringing something to committee. So I hope that clarifies my question.
Through you, the chair. Yeah, so there is some precedence in Grimsby, things that come before the committee that aren't necessarily statutory requirements, but what comes to the committee should be echoing the statutory requirements. So we're going to work on that and clear it up for both ends, make sure we're all on the same page, and we'll look at some examples in the one you gave us to see kind of where the discrepancy is and just try to have some clarification for both sides.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
sure. And that'll be coming to the January meeting.
Okay.
See no further question. I have a resolution resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee. Oh, Councillor Bothwell. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Again, sorry, thank you. I just wanted to again ask if Bianca, if you could add 239 Main Street East, the Workington, to the status activity to do an investigation to find out why it's not, if the actual designation report did get through to the National Trust and why it's not where it should be, whatever. And then I know you guys are working on updating, like you said, the website and ensuring that all the data and the bylaws are all updated and correct. So I know you'll capture what's missing. That would be great. And 133 the 133 Main Street East, the Burgess property. So they've excavated. I had a concern from a resident that they've excavated significantly on that property. There's like huge holes. Do we know where they are with that archaeological finding? And I think the concern was that if they're not that they're closing up the pits for the winter to protect the foundation of the Burgess, the house.
Through the chair, yeah. So I'll add 239 to the list. We are updating all those charts, and it's some of the work that we're putting together for the master plan, the Heritage Master Plan. So all of these important pieces play an integral part. So we'll add that, and I'm going to look into the 5 that are on the trust website and find out what the discrepancy is there. And as for 133, they are doing the phase 4, and we haven't received the report yet on any of the findings, but we can reach out and ensure that the foundation is secured for the winter, and we do have the property standards for the heritage property, so we'll be able to enforce that.
So you're expecting that they're doing an additional stage 4, which is there a timeline on to when that is expected to be completed?
So they're currently doing the phase 4, which phase 4 is removal of all artifacts. So I don't know exactly where they are, and we haven't received any information, any documents yet from it. So.
Okay, thank you. Just because at the last CMC meeting that they had, their lawyer indicated that they're bringing a heritage permit request forward in January. So I just wondered what that could be if they're still working on the archaeological work, but I guess you haven't heard anything on a heritage permit coming forward.
I haven't heard or received anything.
Okay. Nixon Hall, nothing changing on that since they took all the trees down and the tenants in there and doing the restoration inside the building. There's nothing further coming forward on the Nixon Hall property at this time? Because they had originally laid out lot lines and they had done all that. And I just wondered if there's anything further happening with that property.
Sure. So through the chair, the restoration work is still being undertaken on the interior. I have gone in and seen the plaster work and I took pictures for you guys. So I'm going to have an update for you shortly. And we actually were approached by Willowbank to have the first years go in and see plaster restoration being done there. So we have some pictures to share with you guys and they're doing some really beautiful work. I actually took a picture and I'll bring it to the next meeting of the window that was vandalized. And the conservator has put it all back together again and sourced historic glass for all the broken ones. So they're doing a wonderful job on the inside. So I'm looking forward to bringing all those pictures and I'd love to maybe one day go and take a peek with you guys. As for the actual application for the rear, we've not received a complete application. But once we do, we will circulate for requests for comments.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that update.
Yeah.
See no further questions. I have a resolution resolved that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee receive the status and activity report. Could I have a mover? And Olia, and a seconder. Kate, thank you, Kate. All in favor of that report? It's passed. Thank you. Carried. And do we have any correspondence? No correspondence? Well, next meeting is, off the top of my head, is December the 8th. It's a Tuesday and it is at 6 p.m. I want to thank everybody for attending and want to recognize Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Frake, and I think Councillor Sharp is there. He's got his picture on the front, so he must be at the fireplace. And thank you, committee. A great meeting tonight. And thank you, Antonetta and Bianca, for your hard work. There's a lot, we covered a lot tonight, and I want to thank you for your diligence. This meeting is now officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.